Hello, hello. Welcome back for the last time this year. This is the Trading Triangle. Once again, me and Kay. How you doing, Kay?
I'm doing great, Sean. How are you doing? And hello to everybody.
Yeah, good. I'm really looking forward to today. Obviously, we've got a special one lined up. We're going to go over our 2024 picks. We'll go through our individual picks, of course. And then we're going to do a bit of psychology of what kind of went well, what kind of went badly for a year, and how we're going to improve that heading into 2025. And of course, at the end, we're going to have our 2025 individual picks. So do stick around for that. Obviously, once again, we're just a couple of guys on the internet talking about stocks. So we kind of do it for a bit of fun. So it's not financial advice. We just kind of do it for our trading perspectives, of course. So obviously, yeah, it's not financial advice. And thank you once again for Wolf again for letting us use the platform. We really, really appreciate it. Without further ado, should we go to the market overview today, okay?
Yeah, let's do this.
Don't mess up my words. I haven't been live for a little while, you see, so that's what it is. Get back into the swing of things. Right, here we go. That's not it. We want to go here and here. Not ready. Thought I was ready, but I'm not ready. We've got new slides this year. What do you think of them?
I think it's great, honestly. I think I like the new brand change, and I like how we are getting into 2025, and looking forward to it.
Yeah, new year, new brand. I always like to switch up the branding a little bit, and I really, really like this one. It's very simple. It's kind of in your face and a big, big triangle, as you would expect. Anyway, so last week was a pretty green week. It didn't feel like it on Thursday and Friday. Obviously, it's a bit of a shorter week. We had a half day Tuesday, and obviously Wednesday was Christmas Day. So if you do celebrate Christmas, I hope you had a great Christmas and you had lots and lots of food, etc. But yeah, I'm a pretty green week. Do you want to talk to this one, Kay?
I mean, honestly, it was like a pretty slow week, I would say. There wasn't much volatility going on. Most people were in a probably relaxed mood, probably on holidays. The volumes were low. We did see some selling going on towards the later of the week, and I think that was primarily the cause of tax loss harvesting also coming into the play. Portfolio rebalancing is happening at least across institutions. There were a couple, analysts that were on CNBC. They did say, "Oh well, it's not broadening out. I think we shouldn't be worried about one day of sell off." But I think overall it was a slow week, and I think the next week probably will be very similar as well.
Yeah, I think so too. Just people obviously ending the year and maybe probably taking the rest of the week off as well next week. Because obviously the first is the Wednesday, so Thursday, Friday, you might as well just add that to your time off. I did actually forget to mention at the beginning, sticking your ticker request in the comments. As you can see on the screen there, I mentioned there's so much to mention at the beginning of this live stream. I missed that one. So obviously, if you do want something to be covered, then stick them in the comments. We'll be happy to look over that. We always like to do that. But yeah, I think another low volume week ahead for sure. But some good numbers out there across the board, and lots of opportunities kind of are raising as well. We're still in the fear area of the fear ingredient index. 34 is the number. And we've simplified the left side of the screen as well to keep it nice and easy for you to have a look at. So put to call 0.65, VIX is down to 16, SPY is up a little bit, QQQ, obviously we spoke about the volume, and obviously the 1st of January, the market's closed. So bank holiday where you are?
Yeah,
it's bank holiday here as well.
bank holiday as well. Yep.
Awesome. Earnings, obviously not much to talk about here either, and we've got more earnings towards the end of the month. So the banks will kick off the kind of 15th, 16th, 17th, and we're kind of behind our faces, but that's not going to be a conversation for us for the next couple of weeks, is it, okay?
Yeah, exactly. I think we'll probably talk more about for the week of 13th when the banks report earnings, but really the tech earning begins the week after that.
Absolutely. So I guess we're swiftly moving on again to our 2024 results. And we didn't have despite the SPY QQQ being up quite nicely and basically all of the Mag 7, none of us did well. But well done, Kay. You took it home. You got minus 6.16. For the year on Octet. Do you want to speak about that a second?
Well, I think one thing I have to also say that the picks across the board, all our picks we did pretty horrible, right? S&P 500 was up 25% for the year. QQQ was up 27%. So compared to the index, we did pretty bad. The primary thesis behind choosing a SaaS company was that we were hoping that we would see that shift in the IT spending where organizations and companies are going to buy more products. and that would help the price increase. We didn't see that happen. We did see a little bit of a pop during the first quarter, as you can see in the charts. Most of the stocks popped around the March timeframe, but then we saw a steady decline from there onwards, and it just didn't have enough time and juice left for it to recover. Yeah, I mean, that is what it is. We made that call in December last year of 2023. And hey, here we are in December 2024. And listen, it happens. We're going to make another prediction this time around, and we'll be next year here as well. And we'll see how that plays out.
Yeah, we're 1 year wiser. So obviously our picks this year will be much better. But no, the reasoning behind mine was obviously the rate cuts. I wanted them to kind of happen a bit sooner and maybe a bit more of them as well. And obviously we only got 3, I think, in the end of this year. So that's why mine was down 25%. And obviously Nate, as you can see, he's probably making a bit of a comeback on Twitter recently, which is really good to see. But his pick of snow minus 16, also not so good, but maybe kind of related to yours a bit.
Exactly. So when we made that pick in December, we had the right idea in mind, and you can see that in the first quarter, both Snow and Okta had a spike, right? So we did run up. If we would have maintained that level, we would be in green. But then we saw a big sell-off from there onwards. I think Snow was hit much worse than Okta, but Okta also had a couple of news articles, and cybersecurity was just not part of that, run up. We saw that major mishap with CrowdStrike that also impacted other companies as well. Some recovered, like CrowdStrike and Palo Alto recovered much faster than Okta. But I think Okta still has a very good future, and it's not my main pick for 2025, but it's on my radar, and we play these options on a weekly basis. But it's not the pick for 2025. That I'll say upfront.
Of course, and we'll talk a bit more about our strategy a bit later on as well as we head into 2025. But just lastly, I think the CEO left here as well for Snow, which didn't really help him out, did it? For Snow.
Yeah. No, but I think Snow is in a much better position now, and you can see that in the stock price. By the way, throughout the year, we did call out many trades for Snow as well when we hit those rock bottom prices, and I mean, it's a good company.
Yeah, you especially, you definitely put it out quite a few opportunities with Snow throughout the year, and I think you nailed all of them. So yeah, obviously we'll look forward to more opportunities as the year kind of turns around. So the first chart of the day is SPY, as usual. Before we do that, obviously get your requests in. We do have Microsoft and Google already requested by Justin, so we'll get to them a bit later on. But having 2 in our roster is not what we want. We want to have at least 10. So if you are watching, don't be afraid to stick a ticker in the comments. And with that, we'll jump into, obviously, the SPY chart. I mean, nice candle on Friday, but there's not too much to talk about because of the low volume. But I do like to see a nice candle like this where the volume is pushed up and the candle is obviously subsequently ended above the halfway point. I think we see the same thing with QQQ as well. But another thing I like to see is this kind of the trend line and the 50-minute average kind of coming in there as support as well as the really nice candle. So heading into tomorrow, you would expect perhaps a little bit more bullishness in the markets, but of course that can always change overnight. What are your thoughts of the SPY at the moment, okay?
Yeah, I think I agree with your sentiments. I think it might still remain as a low volume week for next week as well. And what I would like to see is a bounce from that trend line. And if it even barcodes next week without having any breakdowns, I think I'll take that as a win.
Absolutely, yeah. So another quiet week ahead. I'm just writing down a couple of these names. But yeah, I think we'll see what happens in the next couple of days. I'm very, very excited for this week, I think. New year, new start, etc. People might be thinking the same sort of thing. And with that, we'll move on to the Qs. So much the same sort of thing, but I think there's a little bit more support here. So we've got the 20-minute average. We've got this line of 522, which I've previously drawn, and the 517 line, which is a line that I've been talking about for quite some time, and the trend line as well flowing through the screen. So a little bit more support there for the Qs, and obviously the Qs kind of have been running the market recently. Tech does tend to run the market these days. So yeah, similar sort of thing. Probably not too much to say here either. Okay.
Nope.
No?
Same. Yep.
Okay. Nice and easy. We've got a few names coming in. Obviously, we've got ENSC, UMAC, Meta, GOOG, SOFI, and NIO. We've written all of those down, so don't worry about those. You hang on for about 15-ish minutes, I reckon. We'll get to them a bit later on. Awesome. So the first chart of the night for me is ASML. Now, in terms of the actual company and the details of them, I'm not too worried about that. I'm more worried about the kind of technical analysis that I can see on the screen here. We've got 2 points of interest for me, and that is the fact that it's come back above the 200 moving average on the weekly chart. By the way, this is the weekly chart, and there's lots of volume here, so it's kind of fighting to get back above that volume, and just looking to poke out of the trend line, which I really, really like for this name. And very, very simply, I want to get back to 870, maybe even 860 if I want to take it a little bit earlier. But yeah, that's a really simple trade for me. I think it's about 20% thereabouts. And just lastly, you can see on the left, the revenue has been slowly increasing throughout this time. So yeah, I like ASML. It's part of kind of semiconductor name, of course. Any thoughts on ASML, Kay?
No, ASML is in a very, very good spot, and especially from a standpoint that it does have a monopoly in the designing, because they do supply the machines, the cryptographic machines for designing chips. I'm not very familiar with all the fundamentals of the company, but I am actually researching on that more because I'm building it into the long-term portfolio. We do have this as part of one of the top picks for, I think it's either Motley Fool or Barron's, one of those 2025 stock picks. This is one of the stock picks, and it had a pretty bad sell-off in October. I believe that might have been due to the earnings. That was a 20% dip. So from here onwards, you actually have a 21% upside potential as it builds out through that massive dump in the stock price. And you probably could have seen this across the board if you look at all semiconductor stocks, barring Broadcom, which just pulled off in the last earnings, which was like 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago. Pretty much most of the stocks, take Nvidia for example, take AMD for example, take not Broadcom, Qualcomm for example, Intel, leave that aside, it's a special story. But most of the semiconductor stocks have taken a backseat in the fourth quarter. Late third quarter to fourth quarter, we haven't seen much juice in them. So that's also what happened with ASML. And I think it's a good trade. If you have a right entry point with the right risk management, I see a 20% upside here.
Awesome. I think we're talking a bit more about semiconductors a bit later on as well, which is good to see. So, hello to you, Trakun Seri Sakasem. Sorry if I got that wrong. And the blue SFX as well. Hello, hello. We always forget to say hello to people, but yeah, no, keep them coming. So that's the first stock from me. That's ASML, looking good in my opinion. Next one is NIO. I'm glad to move our faces because you can't actually see the proper chart. So let's go ahead and do that for now. So we've got big numbers coming out on Wednesday, the 1st of January. There's lots of kind of anticipation around ONVO numbers kind of coming through above 10,000. It's looking good, apparently, according to everyone kind of talking about it. So that's a good catalyst, basically, for NIO coming through on Wednesday. And there's lots of positive feedback on Firefly as well, about the kind of model design, etc., and the kind of anticipation it's going to get throughout the whole market, not just the younger crowd. I do think the older crowd will like it as well. But going back to the chart, I should have made this a little bit bigger, really. But I'm guessing I'm going to basically go for a bit of a projection and go straight for 14, this level of 14 up here. It's a bit bold, it's a bit brave, but I'm bold and brave, so that's kind of who I am. So I think once we get to 750, that'll be a really good point of contention. Of course, we could not. We could go straight down to kind of 2 and 3. But this is kind of how I talk about NIO, of course. Everything that's great going on with the company, etc. I see kind of upside ahead, but obviously that's, again, not financial advice. But 750 is the first point of contact, and then straight through to kind of 14, not straight through, but making its way, grinding through to 14, essentially. I had to bring up NIO because it's the last session of the year, and I talk about NIO quite a lot, and I feel like I had to bring this one up. But any thoughts on NIO, Kay? Because I know you've been in and out of it, I think.
Yeah, no, I actually have been in and out, and I'm kind of liking the spot over here. At least it's been consolidating at the 4 price point for a while now. Let me ask you this, more than my comments, I have a few questions about NIO. Are there like expansion plans for NIO in Europe?
Yeah, so they're already in Europe. They're going to expand in the countries that are in, so kind of Holland and Germany, etc. But they're also expanding in Abu Dhabi as well next year.
Okay.
So that's another kind of market that they want to hit and take. And I think they do quite well there because their cars are obviously very premium. And Abu Dhabi is kind of more a premium market, I would say.
Got it. And so let me ask you this. So there has been a little bit of I shouldn't say momentum shift, but at least sentiment shift about electric vehicles, at least in the US, or at least I feel that way. Is there like a sentiment shift you see in Europe as well, or is it just vapor?
And the sentiment shift in what way? Like a positive way or a negative way?
Yeah, no, in a negative way. Like, or is it, or has it become more positive in Europe about folks planning to own electric vehicles over?
Yeah, I'd say it's more
ICE?
positive for sure. I mean, everyone I've spoken to, and obviously their friends and the family, kind of looking towards that future. Of course, the infrastructure is not quite there, especially here in England. There's not a whole lot of charging points for EVs, but I think in 4 or 5 years down the line, there obviously definitely will be. And that's partially why I guess NIO is not kind of venturing into these sorts of markets, although they have mentioned the word UK, which is quite exciting. But China's obviously very ready for that. They've kind of built the infrastructure. I mean, NIO have built the infrastructure themselves for that. So yeah, I think the sentiment is kind of definitely changing, if not already has in Europe. It's just not the infrastructure to do it as such. Yeah. Anyway.
So overall, you do feel that Neo would be a much longer term play for you, at least.
No, it's always been a long-term pick for me. Yeah. Yeah. I'm not saying it's going to get to 14 overnight, but I do think with a good year of kind of results and obviously infrastructure building, etc., and the new models as well, there's no reason why it can't just trundle on to 14 kind of before the end of the year kind of thing. But yeah, we'll see what happens.
Okay, got it.
Yeah. No, I'm looking forward to what Neo's got in store for this year. I said that last year as well, but that was here. So we've not had the greatest year, but it happens with stocks. Anyway, let's move on to the next slide.
And we did get Adobe as well from Here to Learn.
Awesome. Yeah, we'll definitely get that one. Yeah, I think Adobe is doing some good things at the moment as well, which is quite exciting. Now you can find me on X. Obviously, I post there quite often around kind of my trades, etc. The same on YouTube. I've been going live a bit more recently, and I have a few exciting videos coming out for the new year. Not immediately into the new year, but obviously it's worth subscribing for. So do go ahead and do that. My trading community, TTR, it's actually on a special offer at the moment. It's 15% off. You can go into my X profile, and the link is right there, ready for you to have a look at. Yeah, I do appreciate it. And let's move on to your Charles K. Oh, I'm on the wrong screen. I'm having a nightmare today. Here we go.
All right, I think this is Path, right?
It is indeed.
All right, so I'll start off with the thesis behind Path, and typical to most SaaS companies that we have. They particularly operate in the process automation field. I think we have brought this up a couple times now, and what really is interesting right now is that we see this consolidation phase in this level of around 11 to maybe $13, $14. That's where the majority of the volume shelf is building. Now, the thesis behind is that as companies, they start to look further to cut down on the cost, they are going to look at more automation. And AI agents, and you can already see the future with the AI agent. Salesforce launched their workforce agent, I think, or agent workforce, something like that, 2.0, which basically is agents that are chatbots, but they are much more advanced and they use a much more broader data set to generate responses, just like ChatGPT, whether it's a ChatGPT wrapper or something like that. But in this case, for this particular company, this is very, very exciting. The reason is because they were always in automating the back end processes of businesses. Now, the problem is for most investors, they don't see this company is because you are not very familiar with what happens behind the scene. We are always looking at companies like which are consumer oriented companies like Nike, Apple, Tesla. They have final products, but majority of the other companies or even these companies have business processes. So you have different departments like finance, IT, marketing, they have different business processes that they run. And companies like these are addressing those needs where they are automating the business processes behind the scene. And I actually will have a video out on Path doing a much more fundamental analysis on this company. But for the short term standpoint, this stock can be like goal is to have that gap fill completed, which is an upside of 40% from here onwards. So I'm kind of building out my position here for that breakout to happen. But the first resistance will be 1374, that where we saw that rejection, or at least at a support level, which has become a resistance now. So if we can break that out, we could see a consolidation to the next level, and then I'm aiming for that $17, $18 price point, which is also the target price for 2025. So that's the trade. Again, this is going to be a little bit of a longer swing trade, not something that's going to happen in the next 2 weeks or 3 weeks, but something to keep in your radar if you are looking for some new picks for 2025.
We're always looking for new picks, okay, definitely. I do like this one. We have brought this up a few times, I think, from memory in the last couple of months.
Yeah.
And it's just been consolidating basically the whole time. It did try and kind of run towards the gap fill, but didn't quite make it. And it's just kind of come down a little bit to back to its kind of normal level. So kind of the accumulation zone, as you mentioned. But yeah, no, I like it, especially as you mentioned, like a longer term swing. Definitely have that in mind, I think, when you're looking at this, the viewers. So obviously, if you are looking at this, have kind of maybe 6 months on the horizon, that kind of thing. But the other thing to note is the RSI is kind of sitting around 50, so it's nice in the middle as well. So that's not too bad either. But yeah, no, I really like this pick. I've written it down, so I'll keep tracking it. I think I've written it down about 3 times in the last couple of months, so I'll keep tracking it for sure. No, cheers, Kay.
Awesome, thanks. Let's move on to the next one. Now, this is ExxonMobil. We haven't talked about ExxonMobil in a long time, and this was actually a pretty hot stock, I think, last year. And then even like start of this year started, kind of stepping away from it because the valuation and the price became a little bit too rich. But again, now I believe that it's starting to get interesting. Not there yet, because right now it's around 106. And what is really going to make me interest in ExxonMobil is once we break that $100 mark. That's when it starts to get really interesting, because see, energy stocks are always cyclical in nature. Whenever we see a big run up, we generally sell off, let it come down, get back in and just repeat the cycle. This is also much more of a swing trade, not short term, could take 1 or 2 quarters to play out. But the entry point that I'm looking at is that $98 level. But anything after it breaks down $100, that's when I really will be very interested in taking a position in and having it run back up in the next upcycle for energy. That's the pick over here.
Yeah, I really like the RSI being that low. It's interesting to see right down there. But getting back to this level, like you mentioned, is really, really key for this kind of stock. And do you think that's where the kind of global economy, that kind of stuff, what's it called? Geographic, I can't remember the word is, geopolitical situation.
Geopolitically, I mean, it definitely plays a role, and especially for let's say Trump gets, whenever he gets into the office on 21st, and if there are policies or announcements that are much more pro energy, we could see a big run up again for energy stocks. But again, as I said, it could take a while before that plays out. It could be in February or March, we would see some kind of a run up or a dip. But what's really interesting right now is it's on the radar now, because now it's getting to a very interesting price point around the 100, because that's also a psychological level for ExxonMobil. If you actually go back and you look at the pricing, every time it dips below 100, there's a lot of volume that starts to come in. Right around the $99, $100 mark for ExxonMobil.
Would you consider a ETF alongside it or instead of it? I forget what they're called. I think it's XLE maybe?
Sorry, it's XLE.
Yeah, XLE. Would you consider that?
For trading, no, but for long-term investment, I would, maybe instead of ExxonMobil, if you are much more risk averse, you can choose that. I generally stick with stock. From an ETF standpoint, I mostly am into S&P 500 or QQQ, but for others, I generally am doing a stock picking.
Awesome. No, thank you very much. Definitely written this one down. So where can we find you, Kay?
Well, you can find me on X. I do post on a very, very regular basis, and a lot more fun videos coming out in the next couple of weeks or so. There will be a lot of 2025 picks, which we will only cover one pick here, but there'll be more picks, for different account types. And then, of course, Substack will be a culmination of both Twitter and YouTube video. So if you like reading format, definitely subscribe there.
Yeah, I think that's an important point. Obviously, we don't just have one pick for the year. We're going to have many picks throughout the whole year. So it's worth giving us both a follow at SHAUN Trades. And obviously, as Kay mentioned, at InvestK, as you can see on the screen there, always good content, always good content. Right. The next part of this live stream is we're going to be talking a little bit about kind of what went well, what went badly. But before we do that, just kind of a short intermission, just kind of switching that over. Sorry, Kay, bear with me 1 second. Right, that's that. So, who wants to go first?
Why don't you go first if you want to go first? Go for it.
Okay, so what went well for me in 2024 was really quite simple. And it's risk management. In the previous years before, I've spoken about how kind of stop losses are very important, etc. But I didn't always really set them. I didn't really always set them right. But this year, my stop losses have been on point. They've been every single trade. Very important to always have that stop loss straight away. Now, my strategy is basically breakout trading, so it does require a stop loss all the time. Sometimes Kay might not have a stop loss all the time because of his different strategies, and that's okay. But yeah, I think what really went well for me is kind of risk management on the other side of things as well, in terms of taking profits. But we'll talk a bit about that a bit later on. But my target profit zones and taking the profits was really good. But there was a bit of an issue with that, but obviously we'll get onto that in just a second. So what went well for me is basically risk management as a whole. There's only, lots of things went well for me, but we picked one each this weekend. So yeah, what's yours, Kay?
So I think mine relates to what you were saying, and mine was patience in executing the trade. So making the right entry points. So primarily I'm an option seller, so I tend to sell options on a weekly basis, bi-weekly basis, or monthly basis. So the entry point at what price you want to own the stock is very important, right? So if you pay much higher price point and the stock dips below, and you are an option seller where you're buying stocks in multiplication of 100, that becomes a problem. So having the patience to enter at the point where you know that this eventual option strategy, which is a wheel strategy of buying and selling, in a regular form, it works. And I think this year I was able to refine that much better than my previous year. Got much better results this year compared to last year. And I'm very happy with my patience level of making the right entry. Now, that doesn't mean that I have not missed trades. I have missed trades because, for example, as you will notice if you follow the channel here often, I talk about a lot of gaps. I generally don't, if there is a gap, I would not enter until that gap is filled, because I kind of like the consolidation phase a lot more, so that I can, generate income on a much regular basis. So I have missed some trades, no doubt about it. But I think overall, I'm very happy with my execution and having that patience for this year.
I think there's a very famous book called Trading in the Zone. I think it's by Mark Douglas.
Okay.
The 3 key things in that book is discipline, confidence, and patience. So to have patience as what went well within your trading is really key, Kay, and it's really good to hear. And I'm looking forward to seeing what you've got in store for next year. So yeah, no, well done.
And thanks for the recommendation. I'm going to take a look at that book.
Yeah, no, do it. I'm not too sure. You don't know. You must know about it, surely.
I probably have seen it. I just don't remember the names of the book.
I couldn't get any words out then at all. I don't know if you noticed that. That's hilarious. We'll go straight on to what didn't go well for you. Obviously, you're talking. You might as well go through the flow. So yeah, what didn't go so well for you this year?
So I think what did not go well is kind of relates to what I talked about. So not pivoting fast enough to take advantage of news cycle. Now we are trading here. And when you're trading, sentiments, news, they play a very important role in taking advantage of that. And I think because I am waiting patiently, it also, the other side of it is you're not pivoting fast enough to take advantage. And I give you example. So MicroStrategy is an example where I did not take advantage of the swing of the trade. Palantir, another example where I was hell-bent on making sure it fills the gap before I make an entry. I missed on that trade as well. There are a couple. So these are the failures I would say, and that's money on the table I left. Because if I would have ran, because my entry point in Palantir is about $23, right? And it ran up to 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, and I think now is in 80s, right? So you can see how many times I have missed that run up. But on the flip side, I have also made money on other places. So these things will happen. But I think if I'm trading, I have to make sure that I am following the news a little bit more closely. Palantir, I can understand why I did not go well, but MicroStrategy was a complete miss on my part because I did not pivot. And I was not able to relate to the Bitcoin run up to MicroStrategy. And I think that's where my miss was. So that's what did not go well for me this year.
I think the important point from that was you still got opportunities you already had. But yeah, I mean, I had the same sort of thing with SoundHound. I think it's up to like 23 or 24 now, but I sold the whole position at $9. So I missed out on a lot of gains there, but that's obviously part of what didn't go well for me in a second. But yeah, no, I appreciate that. Okay, awesome. Obviously, you can go back and watch all of this and take in all the information. And the viewers, obviously, this is the key information that we've learned over our past couple of years of trading. And obviously, we want to kind of improve on that in future years of trading as well. And obviously, we'll get into the improvements in a second. But what didn't go well for me was entry points.
Yeah.
I kept rushing in. So the opposite to you, really, because you were patient, obviously, in your entries and you're kind of adding into your trades. And although it doesn't matter too much with swing trading, your entries, it's still a good discipline to have around kind of entry points. So obviously, kind of moving forward, I want to set kind of limit buys, etc., to kind of really improve them. But again, with entry points, you can really maximize your gains as well if you get the right entry points. And I just wasn't setting it, Kay. For some reason, I just wasn't. I was rushing, basically. I just wasn't waiting and having that patience to get in at the right moment. So, for example, a breakout trade might break up above a resistance line, come back down, and obviously I wanted to get to that previous resistance to make it a support. And I wouldn't. I was getting just before or even just after, and it just wasn't the right amount, the right area to get in, essentially, for the trade to play out. And I wasn't burnt a huge amount. Obviously, I had that risk management I spoke about, what went well for the year. But yeah, it just wasn't great for me, my entry points this year, unfortunately. And the other point for me, sorry, you want to say something?
No. I think you make a very good point, right? Because I think it plays to the part of the patience. And I think that you will only learn through time and practice. Because first, the first point is that you recognize that is a problem.
Exactly right. And I think experience is everything in trading for sure.
Yeah.
And you just get it as you go along. It's as simple as that. I always say to new traders, just trade. See. Obviously, you can get the platform, you get used to kind of how it works, etc., in the buying and sell, and you can get the technical analysis as long as you go. As you go along, but the experience is literally everything. I wouldn't be the trader I would be today if it wasn't 2 or 3 years of just doing it, essentially. Anyway, I'm rambling a little bit. Let's move on to my next point. So the other thing I didn't go well from is letting my winners run. We kind of played a little bit kind of what you were talking about a bit earlier. But for me, I mean, SoundHound, again, is a good example of that. I didn't let my winner run for that one. I took the whole position at $9 and just didn't let a small portion run. So yeah, that's my other point. It just didn't go well for me. And obviously we'll talk about the improvements in a second. Any experience with letting your winners run, Kay?
I think more than that, I think I have missed the run completely. Strategy one.
We've all been there.
Yeah. So I think that I have a different problem altogether. It's like I missed it completely altogether.
Awesome. Right. So I guess we'll talk about what we're improving for 2025 then, shall we? So for me, it's very, very simple. Obviously, there's lots of things I need to improve. Of course, we need to improve daily on pretty much everything throughout the whole kind of point of trading. But for me, more kind of goal orientated for me would be obviously entry points. So I've got to really stick to the discipline of actually setting limit buys or limit sales if I'm obviously shorting stocks. So really having a discipline to kind of set that. And if it doesn't get there, it doesn't get there. And if it does get there, then great, I'm in the trade. And whatever happens afterwards is not up to me. And the second point I'm going to go for this year is obviously letting my winners run. So I'm going to adjust my strategy slightly and take a quarter at a time at each target price, and obviously let the last quarter run to whatever. So for example, with SoundHound, just a complete example, it got to $8, I would have taken 25%. Got to $8.50, take another 25%. And then $9 or $10 or whatever, take another 25%, and then let the last 25% run, but with the stop loss running up behind the 20 moving average. That's kind of generally what my strategy is slightly now, but I'm just going to tweak it to make it better going ahead in 2025. Does that sound okay for you, Kay? Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think sometimes when the stock runs up too much too fast, you get, so even though you know that you should not like take everything off the table, there should be, you know, proper risk management, and you should take a house money out and let the runners run. But at that point in time, it's really a psychological game more than anything else. It's more that you stick to your discipline rather than, you know, get swayed in the momentum of how things are, and that's where your emotions are running very high.
I did contemplate actually letting the whole position run and then just leave the stop loss coming up behind 20 moving average. But if you do that and the move doesn't quite play out, or if it takes too long to play out, you're just never going to make money.
Exactly.
So as long as you hit your target prices, take those portions off, and then let the last minute run, then that's how you make, obviously, the account grow ultimately. But yeah, always take the little profits as you can. I mean, I'm sure lots of people took profits on Palantir this year, and like you mentioned earlier, MicroStrategy as well. Anyway, I'm going to stop waffling now. What are you improving on for 2025?
So for 2025, I'm focusing on taking more asymmetrical bets. And the reason I got to this is first identifying what kind of a trader I am, right? So the problem is like, you are a day trader, right? Or you're day trader, swing trader together. I don't day trade. I am mostly an option seller, and then I do swing trades a lot. So identifying what exactly works for me based on my schedule, that is very important. And now I'm shifting more towards, rather than taking those little bit of profits every single time, like a 10%, 15%, I'm looking to get more on the asymmetrical side where the upside potential is much higher. And I'll give you an example. We talked about Uber. You go back, check my video on Uber on my channel. That talks about a typical example of an asymmetrical bet. I talked about Snowflake. I talked about Lululemon. Not in that video, I talked about Lululemon. You can check that out as well. But those are the more asymmetrical bets that I'm planning to take in 2025. And this will be, and I'll test it out in 2025 and see how that plays out. And we'll be here to report.
I think we spoke a bit about ASML. Would that be another kind of candidate that we spoke about earlier, or is that not so asymmetrical for you?
So it would be asymmetrical, but I think ASML is because I'm more looking from a long-term investing, so I'm not going to looking to trade it. Uber is more like a trade for me. Now that trade might play out maybe in a year, 2-year time frame, but that's how I'm looking at Uber.
And is that just down to your interest within the stock name, or is that just kind of because it's the stock and that's what it does?
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
So is that down to the name and the industry that you're talking about, or is that?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Exactly.
Right, the part that everyone's been waiting for, and that is the audience request. I hope you enjoyed that segment. Obviously, what went well, what didn't go well, and what we're improving on in 2025. We'll kind of break it up and probably make it into videos on our channels a bit later on. So we look forward to doing that. But yeah, no, on to the audience requests, and let me get the chart ready. You get the list ready, and
yes,
everyone will be
I have the list ready. The first one, we start with Microsoft.
Microsoft, awesome. Let me just get the chart ready. Here we go. All right, see what I've got here. Microsoft, I've got quite a few drawings on here at the moment. So we've got a lot of support actually kind of bounced off on Friday, which is quite nice. Obviously, that kind of played in with the spine QQQ we looked at a bit earlier on. And that 426 level I've got drawn on the chart might be the same for Justin. I think Justin brought this one up earlier on in the stream. But yeah, the 50 moving average and the 20 moving average and the trend line as well. Do you see that as well, Kay, or are you looking at something different?
No, I'm looking at the same spot. It's pretty much consolidating. I think we did run up pretty high in the early part of this 2024. And then it's kind of slowly consolidating in this range, I would say. But I would look at a 200-day moving average right now if I want to make an entry around 423 or so.
Yeah, I think that's fair enough. Just for the people that are watching, we are going to go through our 2025 picks. I meant to actually say that before this whole section started, but we've got a couple of picks. Well, we've got one pick each, so a couple of picks together, and that'll be after the audience request session that we're going through now. So probably about 15 minutes or so. Do you reckon, Kay?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, awesome. Right, next one.
Next one is Google, and I actually like Google more than Microsoft.
Okay, do you want to talk to that then when it loads? Here we
Yeah,
go.
so I think there are a lot more catalysts going in for Google at this point in time as opposed to Microsoft. Microsoft is also having a little bit of a challenge in terms of the adoption of the Copilot, which is so their PC failed, right? They said, hey, this is going to be the new PC, is going to be AI PC. That did not fly very well with audience or with the customers. And the Copilot is the latest that I heard on the news was that I think it's in Australia and maybe in Europe or somewhere that they are trying. What they have done is they have bundled Copilot with part of their Office product. So what they have done is they have increased the price of the Office products and they have pushed that out in Australia. So if anybody's from Australia on the channel, you can let me know if that's what you're hearing as well. But those kind of things, EU is not going to take it very nicely, right? You will see a lot more crackdown on Microsoft on these practices in European Union. So we'll see how that plays out. But I think what has happened is the Microsoft was the first in market from a big tech standpoint to talk about AI. So they did the ride the wave for the first year and a half. Now I think the focus is shifting to other players. So Microsoft is kind of taking a breather here, and they did underperform, by the way. So I talk about Microsoft more over here, but from a Google standpoint, I like it because of a couple things. One is they got into this whole quantum computing, and their chips. They are starting to design their own chips. I think slowly they've fumbled in the AI aspect in the Gemini in the beginning, but I think they are slowly starting to get back on their feet. Overall, from a long term standpoint, I think Google is a great pick for 2025 and beyond.
I was watching a video on quantum computing yesterday, and one, it's well confusing, but two, it's really quite outstanding how much quicker it is than the normal computer. Because you get supercomputers now that obviously they're very, very fast, but the quantum computing is ridiculously fast. I'm not too sure what we're going to do with that information or how we're going to use it in 4 or 5 years' time when the first computer comes out. But yeah, the future could be potentially quite interesting. Any thoughts on quantum computing, Kay?
No, I have not done the research to make that comment, but Google also outperformed this year, 37% up year to date.
Yeah, very, very good performance. And going to the charts, obviously, what we're looking at here, this big circle, I've actually previously done some analysis on this over the weekend. This kind of big circle we've got here is actually forming a bit of a wedge on the daily. If we go back into kind of the 2-hour chart, we'll probably see that in a bit more detail, as you can see there, kind of within this wedge, and obviously a couple of moving averages there on the 2-hour chart, but it doesn't matter too much. So technically it looks pretty good, obviously, for a break upside or break downside. Well, obviously that'll just basically happen this week, I imagine, maybe the week after perhaps. But yeah, no, exciting stuff for Google. Who's next on the list?
The next is a new company. It's called ENSC. Let me see what it is. ENSC. It's NSYS Biosciences.
We've had a few of these biotech names come up in the last few weeks, haven't we?
Yeah, that is true.
It'd be interesting to see how well they do and if it's actually worth going to XBI, which is actually a biotech ETF. If people are interested in kind of biosciences and think they're going to take off in 2025, again, I haven't done the research much like probably yourself in biosciences to kind of warrant that. But it's an opportunity to kind of look at a bigger picture at least. This one looks okay. It's above all 3 moving averages. Seems to be trading maybe within a bit of a trend line here.
Ooh.
You can kind of see. What have you got there, Kay?
The short interest on this company is 132%.
Wow, is that even possible?
That's the data, unless Seeking Alpha got it wrong.
Well, last time we had that was GME, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's like, so I see why they're asking for this stock, right? Because if the shorts have to cover it, this is going to
the moon.
I think somebody might even go bankrupt in this company, right? I mean, the short sellers, I mean.
Yeah, because it's unlimited upside, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, this stock, hold on. I'm looking at the stock price. It's not, it's doesn't make any sense. The stock went up to 52,000? Is that even possible?
It looks like maybe it's a reverse split situation.
It's crazy. I don't know what's going on here, but
Whoever brought this one up is having a bit of a laugh right now, I think. But no, you're right. Yeah, it's gone up to, what's that? 86,000. It's currently $8. Wow. I mean, even if you just bought like 3 shares or something tiny, it's worth holding it in the portfolio. 0.001% of your portfolio.
Crazy.
Not financial advice. I'm just going to put that out there. But no, I'm definitely writing it down. Why not? Anyway, let's go into something a bit more serious, perhaps.
The next one is UMAC. It's unusual machines.
Say that again. You what?
UMAC.
I see. Thank you.
I think it's also probably a penny stock. Let me see.
They haven't been around for long. Kind of March of 2024.
It's a small cap stock as well.
Yeah, it looks like it.
Wall Street has a strong buy on this one. They are in the drone industry, I believe.
See, lots of people are talking about drones at the moment.
Yeah.
I think people are investing, obviously, because of the kind of drone delivery aspect of the life society. I mean,
Yeah, I mean they probably it's a pretty new company. It IPO'd in 2024 February, so stock ran up all the way from $4 to $23, and now it's still. I mean, it's seems like a speculation. It's a very small cap company, honestly. $140 million. Earnings
yeah.
standpoint, they make $2 million a quarter.
I mean, I've got nothing on the chart here. There's not really much to really talk about. I mean, maybe if you come down to this level again of $12, but even then, it's
Yeah, I mean, at this point, yeah, you would not want to. I mean, the upside over here is unless there is a special news, some big company acquires it for some technology. Apart from that, I would not get into this from a trading standpoint. The upside is I don't see the upside here.
interesting. Yeah, want to perhaps stay away from UMAC.
Next is Meta.
Meta, we're a bit more familiar with that one. I think it's reclaimed its $600 level. Yeah, as you can see on the screen here. It was actually a recent trade of mine, which unfortunately got stopped out because I had 588 as a stop loss.
Okay.
Which was kind of below the 20-minute average. It was kind of what my strategy is like. Luckily, it wasn't too big on my portfolio, which is not too bad. But I mean, I'm now interested again. That's kind of $600 level. Is that a level that you're looking at? I know you had something a bit further.
I did enter a Meta position. Did enter a Meta trade at 595.
Okay.
So that's where I plan to enter. But because because it ran up over 600, I had to roll my contract. So I'm basically collecting premium until I own that at 595.
Right. So do you see more upside from here, perhaps, or is this you're just kind of waiting it out? We might have lost Kay. He's frozen.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Can you hear me? Hello.
Gotcha. We've got you. We've got you back.
Okay. So all I was saying is Meta is a long-term position, and I'll continue, buying in on these little weaknesses we have. It's also an AI play. It's also
All the anticipation there. It's also we might lost Kay permanently. We're not too sure because he keeps popping in and out. But yeah, I'll keep talking to Meta. I think he's just talking about the kind of $600 level here, looking quite exciting. I think for Meta moving forward. Nice bit of support here, the 50-minute average, and once again at the 50-minute average as well. I don't actually know what the next stop is because he has the list. So I'm trying to scroll back up. VUZI from Jason Duren. We'll have a look at that one now, Jason. I'm going to go a bit slower, I think. So obviously we can pick up K at some point moving forward. But yeah, let's have a look. What was it? VUZI. Awesome. Wow, what a move this is made. Got disconnected. Yeah, no, I realised that. But yeah, VUZI. I wonder what they do. Let's have a look. Unfortunately, I don't have my little brain next to me. He was the guy that let me know what these stocks actually did. Now I'm all on my own, which is okay. Right. Right. Technically wise, though, not great. I mean, we had a bit of a run up, kind of mid parts of 2023-ish. Let's go back to the weekly here, zoom out a touch. Really good run from $1-ish now to kind of $5. Again, it's very hard to kind of touch this kind of stock in terms of more upside. Of course, that could be completely wrong. We could have plenty of upside to come, but we do have a big resistance here on the 200 weekly moving average for VUSI. I'm going to call it VUSI, but lots of resistance as well here as well. This kind of 550 level, which it seems to have already touched here as resistance. So yeah, not too much to add here for VUSI. Lots of resistance ahead, and what a fantastic move if you are in it. Just make sure you manage your risk, have that stop loss in place. Especially if you've got in around here area or even here, had that stop loss nice and tight below the 20 moving average. That's where I would have it anyway. That's where I'd have my stop loss. Not too sure where he's gone. Internet down, fantastic. So I might be closing this one out myself. So we'll wait and see if he comes back. But we'll move on to the next one, shall we? We've got this one. So we've got SOFI and NIO Holdings. Let's take a look at these. So SOFI, I think, has got a point of interest, in my opinion. We can see here this point of interest that I've got. We'll zoom out to maybe the weekly. Kind of down to $14 here is basically what I've got drawn out here. Bit of sideways action, maybe actually a bull flag for SOFI. We'll jump back into the daily and draw that out for you. So we've got that price action, obviously really nice run in the last quarter of the year. And then we've got the bottom part of the flag there. And probably, you could probably draw it here actually, to be honest. Doesn't really matter too much, but the kind of upper part of the flag there as well. So plenty to look at here on the SOFI chart. Obviously more upside potentially to have. SOFI building very, very nicely as a company in terms of fundamentals. So, I mean, yeah, plenty of upside to be had here. But we do have the kind of market correction anticipation as well. People kind of shouting for the markets to kind of come down a bit. And obviously that's kind of where I want that kind of $14 level to kind of come into play. Now, NIO Holdings, not one I've looked at for some time. Ooh. So this is the weekly chart, kind of rough few weeks really actually for NIO Holdings. Just going to open up, see where if Kay's like okay on his internet. Put in the comments what your pick for 2025 is. I'd be interested to see, because we're going to go through our picks as well fairly soon. So put in the comments what your picks are. I'm not going to look through them on the chart, but I'd be interested to see what kind of people's picks are for 2025. But yeah, NIO Holdings not looking too good. It looks like we're going to be breaking this support, which we kind of already have. Next support is that kind of August low that the market presented us. So that could be a point of contention. I've got the wrong. There we go. That's one to look at. That actually goes all the way back to here as well by the looks of it. Yes, that's probably why that bounced there. But maybe that's a point of interest, 971 for NIO Holdings. But with a company like this, I would like to see potentially the kind of fundamentals and why it's doing so badly, perhaps. And obviously have a look at guidance. But I won't be trading this anytime soon, that's for sure. AVGO, awesome. Broadcom, I believe. Had a really nice run up in the last few weeks due to earnings, of course. You can see that replicated on the chart now. Nice little pop up. Lots of resistance here, obviously blown through that. But I would like it to perhaps come back down to that kind of 185 level before I get interested. So you can see, I'll put the line in there so you can see. I'm going to make that a touch bigger and a different color. So yeah, you can see that. Thank you, Victor, for bringing this one up. So my point of interest again is 185. Will it get down there anytime soon? I'm not so sure. We've spoken a bit about semiconductors today and the whole kind of industry. So it will be interesting to see if they basically all move up together. We've spoken about obviously NVIDIA as well. Kay's restarting his internet. Awesome. No worries. I'll just keep going, shall I? We've got quite a few more picks to go. So I'll just kind of rattle through them and perhaps maybe once we get to the end of the picks, you might be back at that point, in which case we'll go through our 2025 picks. You know, we've got a couple of good ones, I think, as well. So stay tuned for that one. Broadcom, looking good. What's next? Adobe. I don't actually use Adobe Premiere or Photoshop or anything like that. Put the D before the E, that'd be a good idea. Looks like I've got a few drawings on this one already, which is nice. We've got kind of a previous low set in June, beginning of June. Stick a line there. I think that'd be important to have that line. We're looking at about, for that line, what's that? Let's call it 440. We'll just call it 440. I'm just kind of making my way up there. Got this obsession with holding the arrows to make sure I get to my exact points. There you go, 440. So that goes back to June, but also a gap fill, which was a perfect gap fill in June, back here as well. So a little bit of price action around that area there. Again, we're looking at 2022 now. So 2022, June, late August at the same time as well. So lots of support around this kind of 440 level. If we lose that, then perhaps things might get a bit nastier. But we'll find out what happens there for Adobe. But the company itself, I'm not too sure how they're doing. I'm just going to bring that up. Maybe it'll be quite interesting to see what's going on. I'll bring up the fundamentals so you can see on the screen. A little bit more interactivity for you as well. Adobe. Hopefully this helps you out as well here to learn. So this is Adobe. Nothing but bottom left, top right charts, which is what we love to see, apart from if your shares are outstanding. If your shares are increasing, that means there's potentially more diluting happening. And if they're decreasing, that means they're being bought back up, which then makes your current shares a little bit more valuable, essentially. So we've got creative ARR, whatever that means, document cloud ARR as well, and digital media ARR as well. All really, really nice, bottom left to top right, consistent growth, which obviously totals into revenue. Again, maybe slightly flattening in the last quarter, so that's not too good. But yeah, we'll see what happens. We do have someone back. Here he is. Nice to see you.
Yeah, this has never happened, and today is the day, the last stream of the year, and it just happened. I had to restart. I have to reboot everything. Okay.
So we were just talking about Adobe and how outstanding these numbers are. You can see obviously bottom left to top right on most of these graphs, and obviously the shares outstanding kind of coming down as well. Do you like Adobe for like a long-term pick? Are you in it? Do you like it?
I actually am not in Adobe, but Adobe I know had a pretty bad year. It was like down, I think. Let me see. I think it's down 25% for the year.
Exactly, yeah.
I think when we had this whole AI boom in 2022, when ChatGPT came out and every other stock company was trying to come up with their AI version, I think did they have a Firefly or something like that? Their product where you can generate image through a prompt?
It did. I didn't really like it, to be honest. I used it for a little while, but then I kind of got bored of it very quickly because a lot of it is kind of generated the same sort of, organization within the picture.
I haven't really looked into the financials and the earnings yet. I mean, it's a pretty strong company, I would say. I mean, generates about a $5 to $6 billion a quarter, so you have a decent earnings. I think stock. It has a. Let me see what the rating is. The Wall Street is a buy rating. It's not like a strong buy, and the average price target is 586. Oh, that's pretty big bump if you think about it for 2025.
Awesome. Let's rattle through these next few, then we can talk about our 2025 picks, because we're getting across the hour mark now.
Yes.
And people will probably dozing off perhaps, but hopefully not. What we got? So we've got SOFI, we've already gone through. Let's go through HIMS. That's next on the list, I believe. HIMS is a popular one amongst investors at the moment, isn't it?
Yeah.
So a really big run up recently from kind of 19 all the way to 34, which is absolutely exceptional. Kind of coming back down to this zone that I've drawn as well between, 2023, let's say, and 25.50. But the 50 moving average is proving to be a little bit more stubborn, really. I've actually realized I've got the wrong thing up here. There we go. Yeah, are you interested in HIMS at all?
I did trade HIMS a couple times this year, but it's not on my radar. Let me add that on my watch list, honestly.
There's a potential kind of bull flag in place at the moment.
Yeah, I like HIMS at this level. I mean, if we can get a bounce at this level, because this was also a resistance, the 2587, I think. Yeah, 87. And that also takes you very close to the 50-day moving average. So what I would want to see, it did bounce a couple times. I want this bounce to happen again on HIMS before I want to take a position and have it run up. But again, then I feel like also the 20-day moving average acted as a resistance, at least in the last 4 or 5 trading days.
Yeah.
So if you want to do short-term trading, I would actually wait for the low volume week to end before I make that entry in.
Yeah, don't be afraid to go down to lower time frames as well. Don't just use the daily if you're doing shorter term
Yeah,
trades. But yeah, I like the chart here. Obviously, bull flag kind of shaping up nicely. You see where it kind of ends up. You could probably drag this a little bit lower to there just to kind of accommodate these candles here. So, yeah, the potential downside, but maybe 25.50, 25 would be my point of interest for sure. Awesome. We move on to, we've actually covered new holdings as well already while you were gone.
Okay.
So we're going to be moving on to quantum names, which is not going to be a huge amount we can cover with these charts because they all kind of look the same. But we'll have a look. QUBT. Now my internet is slow. But yeah, I mean, with this one, like I said, with quantum names at the moment, they've just been exploding. So it's hard to kind of do technical analysis on them or anything like that. And we've had a few words on quantum computing already. I think there's definitely analysis to be had, research to be done. Would you agree, okay?
100%. I think this could be, we don't know if it's a flash in the pan or is it something that is going to pick more momentum, right? We always have these themes for every single year. Quantum seems to be the theme for next year.
It does, doesn't it? I mean, it's the last couple of quarters, though. Last quarter, I mean, it's really, really taken off. So has it done its thing? We don't know. It could just be getting started.
Actually, the other ticker that one of the audience asked, IONQ, something like that, IONQ.
Yeah, it's on the same.
Yeah, that stock is like up what 300% this year or something like that.
That's crazy, isn't it? From $8 there to 45. It's way over
267% up for the year. It's rivaling Palantir's rise.
Sure, it certainly is, isn't it? I mean, from lows, it's actually 500%.
Yeah.
Yeah, incredible.
And it's making a nice ladder up, making higher highs. I honestly have not gotten into this yet to understand. I mean, I can probably trade in a shorter time frame, but from a swing trade standpoint, I don't know enough yet.
We do have a possible RSI divergence, though. We do have this, like a general divergence. And obviously, upwards momentum where the relative strength is actually weakening throughout this period, which tends to signal potential kind of reversal on the market. But obviously, with the industry of where it is and the excitement that it has around it, it's going to be tricky to kind of persuade them to kind of go lower. But what I would say, if it does, and it comes down to kind of 50 moving average, then I'll be very interested in getting into some of these names, if not all of them, for a very small percentage of the portfolio. But yeah, no, I'm interested. Yeah.
This one, if you want to trade, would be a day trade. I would not swing trade this one.
Oh, really? Yeah, okay.
The reason is because I don't know enough and the stock has already run up a lot. So in the day trade, I have a much more tighter control over the entry and exit. Because I'm not looking for that big $5 swing. I'm looking for a few cents to $1 swing to get in and get out. That's just how my risk management is. Isn't NNDM the 3D company? 3D
Nano Dimension, yeah. I think they just sacked the CEO or got someone off their board. That's why they're doing quite well in the last couple of months. Well, I say couple of months.
They're up 7% for the year.
So the reason I like this is because it's a textbook trend line breakout trade for me. The only risk is it's a $2 stock, so it's not ideal. But this wedge has been going on for quite some time, as you see on the screen there, back to late parts of, well, actually no, early parts of 2022. Lots of volume built around this area. If we switch back down to the daily, we can see obviously a big push out of there on Thursday, and then obviously subsequently a nice retracement on Friday. If we get back down to kind of 250 level, I might just start a little position. Who knows? Are you looking at this name, okay?
Oh, I'm staying away from it. I burned my hands with an NDM before.
I think that's fair enough, yeah. A stop loss would be tricky here because obviously you look at least 230, which is already a 20%, about a 10% stop loss, which is quite big. But if you're into that kind of risk allocation, then obviously go for it. But yeah, that's kind of my analysis on an NDM. Good friend of mine brought that one up as well, so I can see in the comments. So thank you for watching and sticking around.
Mature.
Yeah, it's been a while. I think it's been a while. But no, you remembered. Well, that's good.
Yeah. I remember. Did you cover Ken's point? He says Tom Lee says that 2025 will belong to small caps and the bottom 493 of the S&P 500. What do you guys think of that?
I didn't know. I haven't got that far. Literally the next comment. So yeah, almost. You want to talk to that?
I think I think Tom is probably more experienced than us from a trading standpoint. That's his day-to-day job. So if you believe in him, then I would bet on IWM more than going individual picks for small picks. I will still stick with the tech side and the Max 7. And of course, Netflix, which is not part of Max 7. But I generally trade with large cap stocks more than small and mid cap. But I like SOFI. I like IWM.
So you're thinking bigger picture, basically. Bigger assets.
Think about who moves the market. It's not the small caps and mid caps that move the market.
No, of course not. But they can benefit more.
They can benefit, exactly. So they will benefit from a rate cut. But the problem is the market was expecting a 4 rate cut for 2026. Now it's 2 on the table. Again, we don't know. It could get a 4 rate cut. But as of right now, that spooked the market.
Exactly. Right. I think we've got what picks should we go straight into 2025 picks now?
Yeah, I think we can start to wrap up.
Yeah, we'll just do Amazon, squeeze that one in because we've touched on this one here, Watavest. They're more kind of quantum names, and we've kind of covered that mostly in this stream already. We'll finish Amazon. We'll make Manisha very, very happy over on the YouTube. So let's have a look at Amazon. Doing really, really well last couple of months, hasn't it? Amazon.
I think Amazon is probably outperformed QQQ. Let me see.
Oh, I reckon so.
Yeah, 47% they are up for the year.
I said in trading community that I do like the level of 200, but I'm not too sure if we see it anytime soon. Just by the kind of momentum it's got. But if we do see 200 again, I'd be very, very interested. If not, this level here, 210, maybe we could start a position. Obviously, we've got the 50-moving average kind of coming in there, and a bit of resistance from previous price action back in November. So that could be a point of contention. Are you looking at any particular levels?
Yeah, I'm actually looking at a more of a news cycle than level. Let Trump sworn in and let's see how he comes up with the tariff. That is going to be a big impact on Amazon for sure, especially on their retail business.
100%.
So maybe that might be, if we see some overreaction on Amazon at that point in time, that might be a good entry point as well. So not looking at all-time highs yet.
News dependent then? Yeah,
I'm more news dependent on Amazon here.
Cool. All right, that's that one. We'll move on to the 2025 picks. Let me just get that sorted. I'm glad that your internet's working again. Otherwise, this part of the stream would have been very awkward for me going through your pick. So I'm glad that's getting sorted. What we'll do is we'll do my pick first because it's first on the slideshow. I won't take too long on explaining it. Let's bring it up now, shall we? So my pick for the year is SMH, which is the semiconductor ETF. The reason I like this is it's a very simple strategy for me. Obviously, one, you can see on the chart at the moment, it's in a very large wedge, which has been happening since basically June, end of June area. We've got a point of interest here on the higher side, and obviously on the lower side as well. You can see on the screen of 280 and 200. So either way we go, obviously I'm looking more towards 280 because it's a bit more of a bullish pick for me, just because where stops are. But yeah, back to the reasoning of this, and this is basically going to lots of other semiconductor names. So what I've got here is AMD, ASML, NVIDIA, RMBS, and MU, and they're all semiconductor names, and they're all looking at very crucial kind of bullish points on their chart. So if you think, especially AMD and NVIDIA, so obviously these are big names within this kind of ETF. So if those two move, they're going to push up the sector. And obviously all the other ones that kind of run with it is going to push up the sector even more. And with all these stocks kind of at these kind of key points, if they all move together, then obviously that brings up the SMH even more. So it just gives me kind of a bit more emphasis to my thesis, if that makes sense. So really, really simple. I'm not going to dive into too much more. We'll talk to your stock in a second, and you'll probably have a bit more play in terms of detail-wise. But yeah, really, really simple. I think SMH will do really, really well. Thoughts?
I'm with you on that because my pick is probably going to support that as well.
And here we go.
All right, so my pick is pretty straightforward. It's NVIDIA, and the thesis behind it's as the AI revolution continues to pick up, the chips are in demand. But actually, NVIDIA goes a little bit beyond just the GPUs itself. So if you actually look at their whole solution that they offer, it's an end-to-end solution from cooling racks to bus to all the other components that go into the data centers, and they're building out their own data centers as well. They call it like the AI data center now. So that's going to be a shift. Now, of course, there is a little bit of a wrinkle there that the hyperscalers like Amazon, Google, Microsoft, they are getting into creating their own chips. And yes, I mean, that will impact NVIDIA. However, those are only few hyperscalers. But as SaaS companies, these are all interconnected topics, right? As SaaS companies, they get more involved in the AI aspects. They will need processing. OpenAI's new model is heavily dependent on NVIDIA GPUs. We see the earnings estimate for 2025 for NVIDIA is going to be 111% growth. For 2026 is 51% growth. So at least for the next 4 quarters, I think NVIDIA is going to probably outperform again. Now, I don't know if it's going to make another 172% gain from here, but even if it does anywhere between 20 to 40% gain from the current stock price, which is right here at the 25% mark, that's the current target price for the year end of 2025, which is 171. That will be my play for the upside. And having said that, I have, and going on the record, I've already increased my position by 25% going into 2025 in NVIDIA for that upswing.
Yeah, I must say I've taken a couple of positions in NVIDIA as well in the last few weeks. So exciting things happening, I think, in the whole kind of sector for semiconductors. And as more just kind of towards my pick, SMH. I mean, NVIDIA is basically 20% of that. No, we didn't do this on purpose. I picked SMH and you picked NVIDIA. And we kind of released them this morning, what we're going to be talking about, obviously on the private trading triangle chat. And obviously it just kind of happened. It just unfortunately happened in the same sort of sector. Maybe next year will be different. We'll get a bit more of a
no, we were different last year as well, right? We were different. No, but also it's like, this is the play, right? If you are looking at AI play, if you're looking at tech play, semis play, you cannot look past NVIDIA. There are other great plays, by the way, as well. And some plays would be looking at 50%, 100% upside potential. Case in point, Uber. But I think I'm also playing a little bit more safer this year compared to last year. Last year, I was a little bit more bolder in the picks because we only get to choose one over here. If I had a 5 pick over here, I'll probably say NVIDIA and 5 other names. But because we are choosing the 1 pick, I want to be a little bit more comfortable in my thesis.
Yeah, you just want to get another year on the board. So you won last year, you want to win this year as well, or next year.
Yeah, most likely.
Risky says, what were the picks from last year? I picked ICLN, Kay picked Okta, and Nate, when he was here, we picked up Snow. So you can look at those. I think Snow was down 16%, you were down 6%, and I was down 25%.
Yeah.
So
it underperformed across the board. And we did talk about in a little bit segment, so you can go and check out the recording and why we picked that pickup. And what happened. We actually did pretty well in the first quarter, and then everything went downhill from there.
Exactly right. And it's a testament to kind of trading is not always perfect, of course. And then with that, it kind of comes to the end of the stream. So our 2025 picks, mine was SMH and yours was NVIDIA. Same sort of sector, but we're looking forward to seeing how they kind of perform. Maybe we should do some sort of forfeit for the end of the year as well. But yeah, we'll talk about that maybe in future streams. We're looking at obviously doing this consistently as possible throughout 2025. I know we had a few weeks off in 2024, but we love to do it. We love to come on here and talk about stocks because we believe it helps you guys and your perspectives. And obviously, when you suggest them in the comments, it helps us pick up new stocks and obviously gain more perspectives on the charts as well. So we do really, really appreciate all the support you've given us in the 2024. And obviously, a big thank you to Wolf as well, who's letting us use the platform. We couldn't do it without you, Wolf. We really, really appreciate you. Any final words from the year, Kay?
Well, I think it was a great year. We had a lot of fun doing this, and I know we made a lot of friends along the way in 2024. Some of our very loyal and subscribers who continue to come and watch us and you support us. I think without your support, we probably wouldn't do this often. I think that is the reason why we come in and do this more often. And the more picks you ask, the session gets more interesting. We get to know new things. And with that, I will say, wish you all a very happy, prosperous 2025. We will be here next week again. Thanks to Wolf. Happy New Year to everybody as well. And then next week we'll hear. And hey, we'll continue the journey in 2025. We'll learn from our mistakes and we'll continue to make money.
Awesome. I think it's the best close we've ever had.
Yeah.
And to that, we'll say goodbye to 2024 and hello to 2025. Take care, everyone. Take care.
Bye.